Hello everyone. Across much of Africa, there's a familiar pattern. When faced with crises like insecurity, food shortages, infrastructure decay, or failing educational systems, governments often respond by allocating funds without first developing clear, strategic, and evidence-based solutions. While funding is necessary, the deeper issue lies in the over-reliance on funding as a cure-all, with little emphasis on long-term planning, implementation capacity, and measurable results. This money-first, strategy-later approach leads to poor outcomes, fiscal waste, and a repeated cycle of unaddressed problems.
So why do African governments default to throwing money at problems instead of crafting effective solutions? 1. Immediate political pressures play a big role. In many countries, political leaders prioritize public perception over real impact on people. With elections looming, governments often feel compelled to channel funds into quick wins in order to meet public expectations. Governments feel intense pressure to be seen acting immediately. Disbursement of funds is seen as the most visible, tangible response, and they opt for high-visibility spending, such as distributing cash handouts, which offer immediate political mileage but little long-term benefit. The goal is to be seen, doing something, rather than actually solving problems. Budgetary allocations, especially for tangible projects, even if poorly conceived, offer quick political wins and patronage opportunities. Distributing resources builds short-term loyalty, more visibly than complex long-term reforms. 2. Governance weaknesses are another key factor. Many African governments lack the internal capacity for policy planning, program design, and evaluation. Ministries are often under-resourced, over-politicized, or lacking in the technical expertise needed to conduct root cause analyses. Faced with complex challenges, officials default to allocating funds rather than crafting viable interventions. This, unfortunately, results in short-term fixes, not sustainable solutions. Even when good strategies exist, bureaucratic inefficiency and lack of technical skills cripple execution. Throwing money feels like action, masking the inability to manage complex programs. Fragmented and siloed government is another factor. Ministries, departments, and agencies often work in isolation with poor coordination. This hinders holistic problem-solving, leading to piecemeal financial responses instead of integrated strategies. Furthermore, with weak monitoring and evaluation systems, governments struggle to track spending effectiveness or learn from failures. Without knowing what worked and what didn't work, the default setting is often to simply allocate more funds next time. 3. Weak accountability systems. Weak legislatures and constrained judicial systems can fail to effectively scrutinize how budgetary allocations are spent and hold governments accountable not just for the expenditure, but for the actual outcomes achieved. And there's also the issue of revenue volatility and windfalls. When the countries rely on volatile commodity exports, this can lead to boom and bust cycles. During the booms, spending surges often lack any real strategic focus, and during the busts, it's usually the essential strategic functions that are the first to be cut.
So how do we fix this? Well, addressing these issues requires systemic changes that target the root causes. First, embed rigorous evidence-based planning into the government. Strengthen and empower national planning commissions or equivalent bodies with real authority. Mandate multi-year, evidence-based national development plans that are aligned with the national vision and economic development aspirations. Link budgetary allocations explicitly to specific and measurable outcomes, such as reduced maternal mortality or lower poverty rates. Invest in robust monitoring and evaluation systems. Ministries, departments, and agencies should be held accountable for results through quarterly performance reviews to improve efficiency and coordination across government operations. Essentially, budgets should be outcome-driven and cut off funding for programs that are not delivering results. Second, build government capacity and ensure national economic coordination. African governments really need to invest in institutions that can think, plan, implement, and solve real social and economic problems, not just spend. This means building a strong, highly skilled, technocratic civil service that can design evidence-based solutions and deliver them effectively. For example, Singapore's Economic Development Board and its Civil Service College play critical roles in long-term national planning and policy innovation. The Economic Development Board, staffed by technocrats, was instrumental in transforming Singapore from a low-income port city to a global business and innovation hub. by identifying strategic sectors, attracting foreign direct investment, and continuously upskilling its workforce. The lesson for Africa is to develop and empower strategic planning units to analyze problems, design scalable interventions, and coordinate effective delivery across ministries. Third, strengthen domestic accountability. Empower oversight institutions by strengthening the capacity and independence of parliaments, especially public accounts committees. These bodies need to go beyond mere procedural compliance to rigorously scrutinizing value for money and program effectiveness. And their findings should actually lead to real consequences, because without consequences, compliance will be weak. Furthermore, reframe political discourse by encouraging political leaders and the media to champion and reward good governance and long-term strategic successes, not just short-term spending announcements and good public relations. Lastly, encourage meaningful national dialogues on sustainable economic development pathways to eliminate policy inconsistencies. In summary, funding is necessary, but it is not sufficient by itself to assure positive outcomes. When deployed without a clear strategy or an accountability framework, public spending becomes a wasteful endeavor rather than a path to economic development. The recurring tendency to throw money at every problem really stems from systemic weaknesses, limited strategic capacity, and political short-termism. Progress doesn't begin when funds are spent. It begins when problems are understood, good strategies are crafted, and funds are used to execute those strategies with discipline. To break this cycle, African governments must emphasize outcomes, not just public optics. They must invest in planning institutions and demand accountability for results. This requires embedding rigorous, outcome-focused planning and evaluation into the heart of government machinery, investing in the professional and technical capacity of the state to design and implement complex solutions, and creating robust systems of accountability that reward effectiveness over expenditure. This is essential for unlocking Africa's true economic development potential. May God bless Africa. Thanks for watching.